Hey everybody, how's it going? Welcome back to another episode of the Chronicles of a Gooner, the Arsenal podcast with me, your host, Harry Symeou. Hope everybody is having a great day so far. The North London derby is just around the corner. The nerves are starting to kick in, certainly at my end anyway. On today's show, we're going to talk about why just because Arsenal have a few injuries, I should say, it doesn't mean that Spurs are the favourites for this fixture. I'm pretty adamant about that. I've done some analysis. I've done some looking into Tottenham Hotspur at the start of this season. And I'm still pretty confident that regardless of the fact that there's no Rice, there's no Odegaard, there's no Merino, I still think Arsenal can win. We're going to do that. We're going to go into that. I'm going to try and convince you guys that that's the case as well on this edition of the Chronicles of a Gooner podcast. Hey everybody, how's it going? Hope everybody is having a good Thursday so far. We're just a couple of days out from the derby. We've got Friday to endure, Saturday to endure, and then thankfully it's an early kickoff on Sunday, so you don't have to wake up and spend half a day thinking about it and being nervous about it. We've got lots and lots to get into. As I said there in the intro, I really do believe that even with the injuries, Arsenal are still the favourites here. I have every faith that we're going to go to Tottenham and put in a good display. And therefore, why wouldn't I be confident that we could come away with all 3 points? It's really important that we get 3 points, I think, because of the fact that we travel to the Etihad next week. And if we could pick up 3 points at Spurs, what a confidence boost that would be. I think more so for the fans than for the team, because I think the team will be pretty chilled. I think they'll be pretty relaxed. I know that we've lost some key players, some important players, but they see each other on a day-to-day basis. For example, let's say Jorginho comes in the side. I don't think there's anyone within the Arsenal camp that looks at Jorginho and thinks, oh no. I think that's something that maybe fans feel at times. But when it comes to the players, I'm sure they've got every faith in those around them. And they're confident that they're going to be able to go on and take all 3 points from this game. I have done a bit of analysis on Spurs. I spent some time yesterday digging into them quite deeply, actually. Watching back extended highlights packages of a couple of their games at the start of this season. And I decided to focus mainly on their defeat up at St James's Park because from speaking to Spurs fans and colleagues over the last few days, one of the things I've constantly heard is the performances have been good, but the results haven't been there. So I wanted to have a look at the performance to try and figure out whether or not that was just Spurs fans being Spurs fans or if there is actually something to that statement. I think there was good things from Spurs in terms of as an attacking force and as an attacking unit. So I can understand why they've taken some encouragement from that. I think there are a lot of players that put on good creative displays. But I think defensively there are a lot of weaknesses. There were a lot of vulnerabilities. And let's get into those now because this is why I think Arsenal can expose Spurs come the weekend. Let's kick off with this. This was an attack that Newcastle United had in the first half. For those of you listening on audio, I'll do my very, very best to explain. But if you fancy coming over to the YouTube channel where you'll have the visuals to back up what I'm saying, then please do that. But here's an attack that Newcastle United had in that first period, coming down the left-hand side, almost got to the byline, probably about 5, 6, maybe even 7 yards shy of it. And there's about to be a cutback into the Tottenham Hotspur penalty area, but the edge of the penalty area, right? And this is a common thing that teams struggle with, but it seems like it's something that for Tottenham is a problem week in, week out. It's when teams get close to the byline. It's when teams use their width and they stretch you. Tottenham's default is to go into this kind of narrow back four, which is right. I think theoretically that's the right way to defend. But very often they don't get, in my opinion, the cover that they need and the support that they need from their midfield to make them or to protect them against cutbacks. I think Spurs are often vulnerable to cutbacks and late runs into the box. And you could see this on multiple occasions against Newcastle United last weekend. Tottenham like to press quite aggressively nowadays. But the second wave of Spurs' press often can't fully commit. And you know why? Because opposition have sussed them out. Look at this screenshot I've got here. This is Newcastle beating the first wave of the Tottenham Hotspur press. And what happens is once the Newcastle player makes his way past the first line of the press, the two midfielders that should instantly go out and confront him and instantly go out and close him down, they can't do that. Do you know why? Because they've got runners going off the back of them as well. Look how aggressive Newcastle United are in this situation. They have got at least 5 runners. There's one on the near side, I think, as well, out of your picture. They've got at least 5 runners on Spurs' backline, pushed up to the halfway line, creating those 1v1 situations that an attacking side dreams of. And what that means is if the next wave of Spurs press goes, because they've already gone, or they've already, left it too late, once they do step out and go to press, they're leaving their defence out to dry. And that's a big, big problem. Once the press fails, you're in trouble. And this is a zoomed out shot of that same phase of play. And I mentioned the guy on the near side. It's Anthony Gordon. You can see him in this shot here. What you have here are 4 Newcastle United attackers all on the halfway line, with the Spurs defensive line pushed right up to that halfway point, and therefore Tottenham Hotspur are in some trouble. Because all you need to do is drop a ball over the top of them. All you need to do is get the angle and weight right on one of those passes in behind that defence. And there's so much grass for Tottenham Hotspur's Guillermo Vicario and for their backline to have to defend. So pressing is good, and pressing is really important, I think, in the modern game. But when your press is unsuccessful, you have to be in a position that isn't one of huge vulnerability. And it feels to me like Tottenham, they've got the first part right, because if you look at the amount of times they win the ball high up the pitch in terms of turnovers, they're really good. They're as good as anyone pretty much in the league at doing that. The problem for Tottenham is that they can't seem to then make sure that they're in the right shape in the deeper areas of their team so as to prevent teams exposing that. So yeah, it's a problem. It really, really is. Here's another example from the same game where Newcastle United broke forward. I think this might even be to do with the same move from memory, but there's no spare man. There's no spare defensive man for Tottenham Hotspur, which means just inside the Tottenham Hotspur penalty area, it is literally 4v4. And you might point at, I think that's Yves Bissouma coming back around about the edge of the D and say, well, that makes it 5-on-4. Well, Joe Linton is about 5, 6, maybe 7 yards away from him. So if Bissouma, if that is Bissouma, I think it's Bissouma, is active, then so is Joe Linton. Therefore, okay, it's not 4v4, it's 5 versus 5, which still isn't good. As a defensive side, you always want to have that spare man. I think that's really, really important. And Tottenham don't seem to accommodate or account for that. I've talked about the high line already. Look at the space that I've highlighted with my rubbish drawing skills in behind the Tottenham Hotspur defence. It only takes one pass when you play that high, or you have to accept that you're going to be involved in foot races. High lines equal foot races. And do Tottenham Hotspur have the backline to deal with that? I think Mickey van der Ven is well equipped to deal with those types of situations. I think that's partly why Tottenham bought him, if not mainly why Tottenham bought him. And I think he's going to be back for this game. But if you play such a high line, you have to accept that there will be foot races. Newcastle United, of course, went on and found the winner. And when you look at how this panned out, it's probably the easiest goal that they will score all season. Another point I wanted to highlight, and another goal that Tottenham conceded this season that I wanted to highlight, was that one against Leicester City, the equaliser from Jamie Vardy. Here I've got Jamie Vardy circled with, I think, Pedro Porro, who's defending him. The defender's the wrong side, and he's nowhere near tight enough. Ball comes into the box. Jamie Vardy's in acres of space. Jamie Vardy with an easy finish. There you go. Bang. There's your equaliser. Leicester get their point. Tottenham drop 2. So I guess, guys, the point I'm trying to make here is that even though we're without some real key players, and even though we're not going to be at our best because of those absences, I still think there are lots of ways you can get at this Tottenham Hotspur side. And it might look like what I've done is just gone and looked at goals they've conceded and and, grab some screenshots, and I'm using those to convince you that we're going to be fine. Actually, if you watch extended highlights, particularly of that Newcastle game, those opportunities for Eddie Howe's side, they were there all the time. Now, Newcastle United might not have always had the quality or control in the game to take advantage of those situations in the way that a better team could, but we can, because we've got the players to do it. We really, really do have the players to do that. So yeah, I'm confident that we can hurt them. I'm confident that unless they arrange more protection for that back line, Arsenal might be up against it at times at White Hart Lane on Sunday, but will have lots of opportunities of their own. Will Ange move to protect that back line a bit better? Will you move to protect yourself online a little bit better by signing up to NordVPN, the best damn VPN service in the business? I've been using it for a long time now, probably about 3 years in total. I love the fact that it gives me added protection and security when I'm online, given that my entire world pretty much revolves around online at the moment. So it's really, really important to me to have that peace of mind. But not only that, I get lots and lots of other benefits. For example, I have the ability to change my geolocation with the click of a button, meaning I can watch content, TV programs, TV series, live streams, etc., that wouldn't normally be available in my territory. If I go abroad, I can still watch Match of the Day. I can still log in to my Sky Go, to my Virgin Media, which really, really helps because, sometimes you're abroad and you want to catch a Premier League game. Do you want to watch it in a language that you don't understand? Not for me. I like the analysis. I like the conversations around the games. NordVPN allows me to do all of that stuff whilst, as I say, first and foremost, protecting me online. You can use it on laptops, PCs, iPads, smartphones, you name it. You can use NordVPN on it. And it is truly, truly brilliant. If you sign up with the Chronicles of a Gooner, you can get yourself a massive discount plus 4 months for free at the end of your plan. All you need to do is visit nordvpn.com/ChroniclesAFC. That's our code ChroniclesAFC. The link is in the description below. Check it out, and a big thank you to NordVPN. Let's go over to the live chat and see what you guys are saying. Let's have a quick look. There's some really intelligent comments in this chat, which I love. I absolutely love. This big hello to Sammy, big hello to Gunnar, Boston. Claudius is with us as well. Smash that like button. Yes, please do, guys. It really, really does help. RT says the tactics against Spurs are easy. Mid-block, defend, park the bus if needed, and counter on Ange's high line. The Searsy says, is it the Searsy or these RC? I don't know how I'm supposed to be reading that screen name. But he says, sounds like Harry's leading up to recommending Martinelli starts on the left. We're going to talk about my starting lineup in just a minute. That's the next part. But you're kind of onto me a little bit, I would say, because I am going to go with Martinelli, spoiler, but I'm going to explain why. And I think when you listen to the kind of analysis that I've just kind of provided, and I know that I kind of went through it quite quickly because I'm conscious of these things becoming boring for you guys when I spend ages and ages talking about analysis. But to me, it's really interesting. And I find that when I watch Spurs now, I can tell you where the vulnerability is. And because I've seen it, not just this season, but throughout last season as well. And listen, I'll be honest with you, Spurs were incredibly entertaining to watch last season. And I did probably pay more attention to Spurs games last season under Ange Postecoglou than I would have done in the years prior under Merino or Antonio Conte, etc., etc. But because I've seen so much of them, and then I've seen the start of this season, and I'm not convinced that a great deal has changed, I feel like we're in a really, really good position. And I think the right word is to expose them. Let's talk a little bit about then the team that I would pick. So, my starting 11 for the North London derby is this. David Raya in goal. White, Saliba, Gabriel and Timber would be my back four. I'm going with a double pivot in midfield of Jorginho and Thomas Partey. I'm bringing Kai Havertz into that slightly deeper position, but not as an 8, more like a 10. I'm putting Leandro Trossard up top as my false 9, and I'm using the pace of Saka and Martinelli on the 2 flanks. That is how I would line us up against Tottenham. Let me run through that once again for those of you listening on audio. Raya in goal. White, Saliba, Gabriel and Timber on my back 4. Jorginho and Partey will play as a double pivot. Havertz just in front of them. Saka from the right, Martinelli from the left, and Trossard as the false 9. Now, if I think about what we're likely to face we're likely to face a mid-block. It's the Postecoglou way. The high line, but they also want to be aggressive in the way that they press people. They want to play on the front foot. So often, as I've talked about already, there's lots of grass in behind them. We want to isolate their defenders into those 1v1 situations. But I think if you go back to the Villa game in particular, we had kind of an issue playing through a middle block. Villa did a really, really good job of stopping those passes from our back line into Partey, into Timber, who was drifting into that position on that particular occasion. And so I think we do so that you can be our target, so that we can use you as our outlet. Why not try and hit Bukayo Saka nice and early? Why not try and hit Gabriel Martinelli nice and early? Because 2 of Tottenham's biggest attacking threats, these days anyway, are their fullbacks, Pedro Porro and Udogie. Do you think they'll venture forward as often, knowing that Saka and Martinelli are going to stay high and wide? Tottenham were burnt by Bukayo Saka last season. They know exactly what he's all about. So for that reason, I think it's right to go with Saka and Martinelli. I think the aim will be to pin back Spurs' fullbacks as much as we can. But in the event that they go forward anyway, well, then we've got a nice outlet for ourselves, haven't we? In fact, we've got 2 outlets. I look at the midfield situation, and I don't really think that Mikel Arteta, if I'm being all honest, has much choice. I think there is a case that says that actually we should stick with Kai Havertz up front, because if I'm talking about going over the mid-block, then surely having someone who's as good aerially as him makes a lot of sense. But I do think Martinelli and Saka, if you drop balls over the top of a backline left and right, are more than capable of winning their fair share and chasing and hunting the ball down. So we might have to go wider initially and hope that Havertz can get up and join in with Leandro Trossard if he plays as a false 9. Maybe Jesus plays. That would be great. That would be a bonus, of course. But if these are the players that are available to us, this is the way I'd do it. And so coming back to the Havertz debate, yes, you take something away from our centre-forward position. But I just don't think we've got anybody else within our ranks that physically can play in the midfield away at Spurs, given what I've just talked about, given that I believe they'll have the advantage in that sense. So that's my plan. That's how I would attack this game. You want to give Havertz the ability to get forward if he doesn't play in attack. And I think having Jorginho and Partey, a slightly more defensive-minded midfield duo than we would normally have, where we'd normally play with the 1-6, probably facilitates that. Timber, Gabriel, Saliba can stay as that kind of narrow back 4. I'm sure Timber will go into the midfield and help out when he can. Ben White could do that from the right-hand side as well. But I think a lot of the time we obsess about what we're going to do in possession. This could be a game where we don't have a lot of possession. Because of the players we have missing, I think our ability to dominate is significantly reduced. And so this might be a game that we play the majority of off the ball. In which case, these are the right players for that, in my opinion. The other thing to mention as well, of course, is set pieces. Look how effective we've been when it comes to set pieces over the past year. Tottenham Hotspur have a huge problem defending set pieces. Let's try and win them. Let's try and make the most of them. Okay, we don't have Declan Rice to deliver the way that he delivers so brilliantly. We don't have Martin Odegaard either. But we do have Bukayo Saka. We do have Trossard's aerial threat. We've got the 2 centre-backs. We've got Ben White as well. So there's no reason why Arsenal shouldn't be going into this game feeling confident. Just because a few players missing, it doesn't mean that Tottenham are automatically the favourites for this game. In terms of my prediction, I'm going to go Spurs 1, Arsenal 3. I think we'll hit them on the break. I think we'll make them pay when it comes to set pieces. And I am confident that we can go to Tottenham and win. Now, that's not to say it's definitely going to happen because it's a derby and things like that don't always work like that, I guess, is the point I'm trying to make. Lots of you don't agree with my team, which is expected, of course. Jasper says Trossard and Havertz swapping would be better. I'm fine with that, by the way. I did kind of make that point. That I think there will be occasions where Havertz will be given that license to go further forward, and maybe that means that Trossard drops into that slightly deeper position. Some of you are calling for Raheem Sterling to start the game. Look, I'm not against that. Like, if we turn up on Sunday and Raheem Sterling's in the starting 11, you're not going to get complaints from me. But my only reservation about Raheem Sterling, and I'm sure it's one that Mikel Arteta will have as well, is he hasn't played a game yet this season. You know, he's been cast aside. Okay, he's been training alone for a while. He's had a couple of weeks with Arsenal with Mikel Arteta, which maybe has really aided in kind of getting him up to speed and stuff. But I just look at that and I think it would be a bit of a risk and a bit of a gamble. And also, we've been talking a lot, haven't we, about this Martinelli-Trossard dynamic, who should play. Sterling coming in and just taking that position from the off, I think would ruffle a few feathers. Maybe that's what needs to happen. Maybe that's how you maintain the high standards, by putting people up against each other, creating that competition, creating that healthy competition and that sort of fierce environment. But yeah, we'll have to wait and see. That's my prediction then. Spurs 1, Arsenal 3. Don't forget to leave a like on the video if you haven't done so already. Make sure you're subscribed as well to the channel if you're brand new. It really, really does help. I'll be back very, very soon with another episode. Let me know how you're feeling about the North London derby in the comments section below. Get involved. Let me know if you think we can expose Tottenham Hotspur, what we'll be up against in terms of their threat. We know they've got plenty of it. I'm not writing them off by any means. All I'm saying is, it's not a case of Arsenal are rubbish all of a sudden and Tottenham are great. Tottenham have had a difficult start to the season. 1 win, 1 loss, 1 draw. For Arsenal, we've had 1 draw and 2 wins, and we're talking like it's the end of the world. So let's relax. Let's calm down a little bit. I think if Mikel Arteta gets it right tactically, Arsenal could well win this game. And I have faith in him to do so. That's the team I'd go with. Let me know yours in the comments section below. Subscribe, all the rest of it. Check out NordVPN. Check us out on Patreon as well. And I'll see you all very soon. Until the next one, take care of yourselves. Goodbye.